Hi, welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. My name is Sera Doğramacı and I'm IHA's Goaltender Development Manager. And today with me, I have Elise Valjaots, who is not only a goaltender, former goaltender for Team Iceland, but also studying her master's in performance psychology. Welcome, Elise.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm
been
so
really
excited. Yeah, I'm really, this is going to be a wonderful conversation, I'm sure. So I know, so playing for Iceland, but born in Estonia. And I know you didn't get into hockey until much later. So talk us through the path of what you did until you started hockey and then how hockey actually came about for you.
Mhm. So I was not really much aware of hockey until I was 16. So my math teacher at school was Ingvar Jonsson, who was the men's national team captain.
Huh.
And the class, he was a great teacher, and the class started following what he was doing, and we went to games, and that's sort of how it started.
Okay.
I competed in alpine skiing very competitively,
Mm-hmm.
and a year after he was my teacher, I spent the winter in Austria and Italy training, and then I competed at the Youth Olympic Winter Festival.
Oh,
And
cool.
I had my races in the morning, and in the afternoon I was able to go to some of the games, and that's where I got absolutely hooked. I just loved it so much.
So,
And
okay, so alpine skiing growing up and then hockey at age 16, right?
yeah,
So
so that's
did any of the skills transfer over? Like not having the skating background, but having a skiing background, did any of it make it easier?
oh, absolutely. Both the sports are they rely a lot on the lower body. So I had all the footwork. It's quite similar when you think of it. It's edge work, and you need balance, and also mental skills,
Mm.
sports psychology. Skiing, we did a lot with sports psychology and skiing.
Okay.
So that doesn't really, like, you can utilize what you learned there and apply it in different settings. And that eventually, as I became a goalie 2 years after I started playing ice hockey, that's it was really beneficial, because for goal,
Absolutely.
such an important part.
Awesome. Okay, so you started out as a player. Why did you want to go be a goalie?
I had always been quite attracted to the position. I think maybe because coming from an individual sport as well, the goalie is sort of has an individual role on a team. And I think I like the responsibility, or the feeling of responsibility as well, of being the last person
Yeah.
that um, it's Gulla. We played on the same team, and we swapped gears for one training, and I just felt that it was for me. It was the place for me to be,
You just knew
and
right away.
yeah, and I actually, from that training on, I played as a goalie. I never really went back to
Yeah.
playing, player.
So, okay, so in the short space of time that you sort of did play, but you also excelled pretty quickly. What sort of things did you do? Who did you play for? And then I guess how long did it take for you to get on the national team?
So yeah, I started playing on a mom's team, and
Oh,
basically just taught myself things through YouTube. I was obsessed, as I said. Um, I was told to by the coaches of the actual women's team to go and stick handle 10 minutes a day. I downloaded the How to Hockey Stick Handling Manual book, and I religiously did that every single day. And I just, it wasn't even, at first, I just loved to play. I didn't even have any big dreams of making it anywhere or anything, but I just really loved it. And I think that obsession really helped me improve quickly.
yeah.
I was spending so much time on training certain things, and I think I really approached it strategically.
Strategically, it's all good. I understood.
Like I had those like mind maps of all the different
Yeah.
components they sort of factor in, and I really thought about them and like made those like had goal setting, like how to improve this thing and that.
Mm.
So
Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome. So, okay, so with where you were in Iceland, because hockey is, well, it's a small population anyway, right? So what kind of opportunities were even available for you? Are there so many goalies you have to compete against to get on teams, you know, the women's national league, or did you play with the men's, or what was the situation in your development?
So Iceland basically has 3 clubs. It has it's changed throughout the years a little bit, but there is not that much competition.
Okay.
I made it onto the actual women's team half a year after I. Oh wait, that was the league was different that the year after.
Yeah.
I played for the women's team, the club level, for 2 years or so,
Okay.
and then the men's team's goalie, he in the middle of the season he basically went to Australia to study.
Ha,
So the
there
men
you go.
needed, yeah, and yeah, at that time I was in the national team as well. I made it there in 2014.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I basically trained with the men. I
Hmm.
trained with under 20. I trained with the women's team. I had a lot of ice time a week. It was amazing.
And I'm sure that really helped with your development just to get to the high levels pretty quickly. Awesome. Okay, then I know these days not so much playing, but sort of still involved in the hockey world. So talk us through what your bachelor's degree was, because that kind of became the focus then, right?
Mhm. So yeah, I moved to Scotland in 2016 to study sports physiology and sports science at the University of Glasgow.
Mm-hmm.
And the sports science part, I mainly focused on sports psychology.
Okay.
So when I did assessments and such, I oftentimes picked topics that were sports psychology related. And that's also how I ended up going to Australia. I was awarded a scholarship to do
Mm-hmm.
my final year honors project um, over your winter in
Yeah.
2019, which basically looked at how well psychological skills training program could help top junior goalies improve their psychological skills as
Mm-hmm.
well as their save percentage. And
Awesome.
yeah, so I
So
worked on the under 18, under 15, and 13 teams, the state
yeah.
teams.
Yeah, so for everyone else's benefit, we did have Elise out here in New South Wales working with the junior state teams. So talk us a little bit about how you were involved with the team. So was it just with the goalies? Was it with the players as well? How was the structure for you?
Well, it differed quite a bit. It was mainly just the goalies for the Tange team,
Hmm.
and Greece. I did a little bit of goal setting with the youngest,
Hmm.
Ginsberg, and just talked to them and introduced how sports psychology can basically help them a little bit and improve them as players. But it was mostly just the goalies that I worked with, yeah.
So then with those different age groups, because it's vast, you have 12, 13-year-olds, 14, 15-year-olds, and then 16, 17, 18. So with each age group, obviously there's the maturity level, but there would be different things that you would focus on. As they get older, it's a little bit more competitive. For some of them, it could have been their last time to have that chance to play, for New South Wales, perhaps. So were there different things, we talked about introducing goal setting for the youngest age group, for the Ginsberg ones. What was different between each of the age groups, and how were the goalies responding to that?
Well, I basically had one structure that I worked with. So I met up with the goalies once a week over 6 weeks.
Okay.
And we had one-on-one 30-minute sessions. So in first week, we covered goal setting, set some goals. Then the second week, we touched on anxiety and arousal regulation, moved on to self-talk in week 3, concentration, imagery, and then in week 6 we basically put that all into routines. So routines was the main focus. So for the youngest goalies, I basically tried to just touch on the basics. I gave them the same notes that they could look into, and if they wanted to know more and explore, go deeper into the topics. But in those one-on-one sessions, we basically just talked about those things. I asked them how much they already knew, and I didn't want to cover too much too quickly so that they would not be able to grasp the concepts. So it differed. But one of the interesting things I noticed was that even the youngest goalies, some of them had gone to the NSA camps, and they were already very familiar with goal setting, and it didn't really, the age did not matter that much. I felt like some of the younger goalies who had maybe been more exposed to some of the concepts, they knew a lot, and I was really impressed. So that really helps those goalies.
Oh, that's good. So then once you finished working with them, I mean, we don't really need to get into, actually, were you there at some of the tournaments with the games? Did you see the goalies putting that into action?
I went to Melbourne with Tanj, and I also went to the Ginsberg Nationals, which was in Arena. And so I was there with the team and talked to the goalies before and after games. And throughout when we had those one-on-one sessions, I also went on the ice with them once or twice a week. And we tried to implement what we were learning
directly on the ice.
And we tried to put it into action on the ice.
That's so cool. So then when it came to the tournament, were they actually able to implement it when they were playing a game under a bit of pressure, maybe like in the gold medal games or whatever the situation was? Could you see it working?
Yeah, it's definitely self-talk. We tried to come up with sort of things that they could do, routines, if they start going into those negative spirals, then they would identify the thought, stop the thought, use cue, a word, something, and then replace the thought. That's really important in this case, to replace the thought with something else. And based on already the goal setting and all the other things we worked with, they already sort of knew what would work for them the best. They had this strategy outlined, and we tried to rehearse that at the trainings, and then they were already much better at it when it came to the championships.
And I like that you just use the word rehearse, because you have to practice these things. It's not just practice your skills on the ice. You have to practice the mental skills, the psychology as well. So then when you do get to a game, you're still able to execute it and optimize your performance, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's mental skills are just like training the body. physically. You can't just go and think, okay, I have this important game, I'll read a few things and I'll just do that on the ice. It isn't like that. You have to train to become good at it when it really matters, and you don't know what. So you need to have rehearsed those things so you can apply them properly, effectively when it really matters.
Yeah, and using that in a training session as well while you're on the ice, with your team environment or whatnot, practicing those skills there. So when you finished up with them, when you headed back home or back to Scotland, was there anything in place for them to continue? Were any of the goalies still in touch with you? Are any of them still in touch with you, talking about like what their strategies are or what they're working on?
One of the things I gave the goalies was sort of a workbook that had a lot of material that I sort of hope that, in the one-on-one sessions, we talked through the material and did some exercises, and so they can still look back into the workbook, and if they want to know more about one particular thing, then they can look at go and research or like Google that and find more about that. So there were a few goalies in touch with me after. I'm not that much in touch with them at the moment, but they know that they can always reach out, and I'm more than happy to help. And it's I want to see them succeed as well, and it's been amazing to follow some of them to see how far they've come with this 1 year.
Yeah, well, and even with the year being the way it is, where we have had to cancel the national tournaments as well, but how some of them they're still, hitting their own goals on the ice and succeeding in some of the things that they're doing. So that's nice that they've kept in touch with you and you've kept in touch with them as well. Okay, so then what are you doing now? Now you're doing your master's in performance psychology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what are you doing? What does that look like?
A lot of what we do is we cover sports psychology a lot, and then we take those concepts that we cover there and apply in other performance domains such as music and business world. Obviously there is a lot of research on those in those areas already as well, but we sort of try to make the connection and see how they cross over and try to find new ways and broaden our perspectives of how those things can be applied in any setting, even in the in school, in the classroom, as students. It's with schoolwork or whatever. It's you can apply those things in anything that you want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess globally, the world of sports psychology, some have more value on it over others, and some degrees have sort of shifted. And I know definitely in Australia, the way that things have been going, like the whole domain of performance psychology has changed a little bit. Is there any clinical psychology that's covered in your course?
Clinical in what sense?
So as in not just specializing in performance psychology, so now stepping away from things like goal setting and whatnot, but talking more about depression, anxiety, those sort of coping mechanisms. Is any of that covered in it, or is it purely just for performance?
There's definitely doing one module or course which is called stress, coping and control.
Okay.
So it's currently in process. So we look at how stress, where it starts.
Yeah.
Like when you've got a certain amount of resources and you feel like the demands are higher, so you don't have enough resources to deal with the demands, that causes stress and anxiety. well, obviously other things as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can choose how you don't always have to improve your resources. A lot of the time it's just how you perceive those resources as well. So if you change your perception of them, that can also really do a lot. So
100%. Okay, so with your degree, what's the end goal? What are you hoping to do from it? Do you look to work exclusively with goalies or with hockey, or what are you hoping to do with your degree once you finish?
that's a good question. I still have a year to go. So I'll finish my degree in September next year, and we get exposed to so many interesting things and so many different domains. So I think I want to keep my options sort of
Yeah.
open and try to. I want to try different things, and I think the UK is really good for that.
Okay.
So I'll probably stay here for a little longer and just see. I really like how sport can for young kids, how it can improve their skills that they can then apply in school or become as they become adults in workplaces and such. It was for me personally the first experience I had of sports psychology was through skiing when I was around 12 years old. We got this the ski club brought in sports psychologist that did like a talk for the group, and there was one exercise in that session that just lit this bulb in my head. That was how my fascination and passion for this all started. So it's done so much for me. That was um, in so many ways. So I think if I could have that sort of impact on someone to help them understand how this can really help them benefit in trying to succeed in whatever it is that they want to do, then that would make me very happy.
100%. And who knows, maybe you will end up back in Iceland. I'm sure your family would love to have you back there. And yeah, maybe down the line, maybe we can bring you back out here and instead, not just working with the New South Wales teams, but let's see what the options are. Because I know the work that you did here was brilliant, and I loved watching it. Not that I was directly involved, but I loved seeing what you were doing and how it was, the goalies were implementing all that and just what they got out of it. I think is very beneficial. I'm a huge advocate for the performance psychology. I loved having you out here. And yeah, let's see what the future holds. So thank you, Elise, for this chat. And hope to chat to you again soon.
Oh, thank you for having me so much.